Welcome back. We're looking at figurative language. And in this segment, we're going to be looking at repetition. Now, you can get repetition of many different things. Of a sound, a syllable, word, phrase, line, stanza, rhythm. Repetition is used to create unity in a poem. Let's have a look at an example. This is taken from Carl Shapiro's poem Auto-Wreck, and it is the opening line. It's quick, soft, silver bell, beating, beating. Where is the repetition? It's in the beating, beating. You need to read the rest of the poem to understand what the "it's" is all about. It's referring to an ambulance. And we've got the title of the poem, Auto-Wreck, or A Car Wreck. It's a poem about a car accident. And the ambulance is coming to the scene of the accident. Look at the line again. It's quick, soft, silver bell, beating, beating. So the sound of the ambulance's bell is described as beating. Now here, this is almost onomatopoeic in its effect. Now you need to say to yourself, why does he use beating? The repetition gives you the idea of the sound being repeated and echoing as you hear the ambulance coming towards the accident. It's a sound that's familiar, I think, to all of us. We can hear in our heads that sound of an ambulance. So it's almost like that onomatopoeic beating of an ambulance's bell. But you need to ask yourself, why beating? Why didn't he say the bell rings or the bell sounds? What is the most common association of beating? If we think about what beats, you might say drums. But if we're thinking about a car accident and people lying in a road, and if they've been badly injured, there will be blood. What else do we think of with beating? We think of a heart. So the repetition is linking the sound of the ambulance's bell with the idea of a heart, which is what is going to be coming later in the poem because of people who've been injured in an accident. So he's chosen that word beating very specifically, and the repetition gives us a chance to think of the associations of beating. We get heart, and we're being prepared for the idea of a car accident and blood everywhere. A refrain is a different kind of repetition. The word refrain comes from the Latin refringere, meaning to repeat. A refrain is the line or lines that are repeated in music or in verse, what you might call the chorus in a song. I want us to look at Lupe Fiasco, All Black Everything. You would never know if you could ever be. If you never try, you would never see. Stayed in Africa, we ain't never leave. So there were no slaves in our history, were no slave ships, were no misery. Call me crazy, or isn't he? See, I fell asleep and I had a dream. It was all black, everything. Now, he repeats this in each part of the song. And I want to have a look at what he's achieving through this refrain. You would never know if you could ever be. If you never try, you would never see. Why does he repeat this? He's suggesting a future that you won't be able to achieve if you remain fixed in a present because of a fixed past. He's saying we can only change our present and our future if we can imagine a different past for ourselves. Otherwise, we are fixed in the past. That means that we can't change the present or the future. So he says, we stayed in Africa as blacks. We never left Africa. There were no slaves. There were no slave ships. There was no misery. Now, we know that there were slaves and there were slave ships, but he says, no, put that aside. Rather, let's look at a different kind of future and a different kind of present. He says, call me crazy, but this is what I want to imagine. I fell asleep and I had a dream. It was all black, everything. So he uses that refrain, that chorus in his song. You have verse, chorus, verse, in order to emphasize something about his vision and to challenge us to imagine a different world and not be tied to our past, specifically black people tied to their past. We've looked at similes and metaphors, personification, onomatopoeia, alliteration, and the refrain, repetition. Good luck with your analysis of figures of speech. Remember, explain and then discuss. From me, bye-bye.